Alright, buckle up, because this story is about to take you on a wild ride through 1980s Moscow, where the lines between crime, politics, and high society were blurrier than a vodka-fueled night out. So picture this. It's the dead of night, July 28, 1981. Moscow cop Chernov is yanked out of his sleep by the shrill ringing of his phone. Now, Chernov's been around the block, he's seen it all, from murders to arson, so you'd think a robbery call wouldn't even faze him. But when he hangs up the phone, he mutters something along the lines of, "super lit," which is basically Russian for, "Oh, we're in deep T." Why? Because this wasn't just any old robbery. The crime scene, the Arkhangelsk estate. Now this place isn't your regular rundown Soviet apartment block. No, this estate was built in the 17th century, originally a private residence for Russian dukes, later a hotspot for the creme de la creme of Russian aristocracy. Fast forward to Soviet times and most of it got converted into a museum, a military club, and a spa because even Soviet officials need a little R&R. But the heart of the estate? Still a playground for the elite, though now it's the Soviet bigwigs kids who are living it up there. These kids, by the way, had their own little group called the Night Light Club, where they'd gather at the estate to indulge in all the capitalist vices their parents were supposedly fighting against. And of course no regular Joe could just waltz in there. So, for something to go down at this particular estate, yeah, Chernov knew he was walking into a minefield, but duty calls, right? So, off he goes, driving to the estate with the enthusiasm of a guy heading to his own funeral. When he arrives, a servant fills him in on the night's events. The Nightlight Club had been doing its usual thing, drinking, dancing, and generally being the privileged brats they were. At some point, the lights dimmed and people started waltzing around in the romantic glow of candlelight. But after a few rounds of dancing, someone screamed, "I've been robbed!" Turns out a bunch of people had stuff missing. But the real kicker? The most important person at the party had lost something too. And this wasn't just any guest. No, this was a 52-year-old, rather rotund woman. The kind of woman who, if you squint, might have been a knockout in her youth but now had more in common with a linebacker than a ballerina. Despite her hefty appearance, she was the star of the show, with every young dude at the party trying to get in her good graces like she was handing out free Wi-Fi passwords. Chernov, naturally curious, asked why this particular woman was such a big deal. The servant casually dropped a bombshell. Her name was Galina Leonidovna. Chernov, still not getting it, was like, "Okay, so what?" Then the servant hit him with the punchline. Her last name was Brezhneva, as in daughter of Leonid Brezhnev, the freaking General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Chernov almost had a heart attack right there. This wasn't just any theft. This was a theft involving the daughter of the guy running the entire Soviet Union. Chernov, still trying to process this, asked what exactly had been stolen from the first daughter. The servant hit him with another gut punch. A diamond brooch. But not just any diamond brooch, this thing was a national treasure, originally belonging to Tsarina Alexandra, the wife of the last Tsar of Russia. Galina had borrowed it from the Ministry of Finance. Yep, she was wearing a priceless historical artifact to a party. Casual. Chernov, now fully awake and probably wishing he could rewind time and ignore the phone call, asked the next logical question. Who's dead? Because of course there was a body. This is Moscow in the 80s after all. The servant assured him that thankfully the dead guy wasn't one of the elite. Instead they found a body outside near the kitchen window with blood on the windowsill. The corpse? Nikolai Rezanov, a big shot in Moscow's criminal underworld. This guy had more followers than a TikTok influencer, and now he was dead on the lawn of one of the most exclusive estates in the country. Chernov, realizing this night was only getting worse, sighed. He had on his hands the perfect storm of a case, a stolen national treasure, the daughter of the Soviet leader, and a dead mob boss. It was like someone had handed him a script for a Soviet soap opera, and he was the unlucky lead. But a job's a job. Chernov started asking questions and one of the servants mentioned a new face at the party, a handsome young guy who wasn't a regular. He was supposedly the boyfriend of Inga Solovyova, the daughter of some high-ranking official in the state planning committee. This guy had been dancing like a drunken octopus, bumping into people left and right, and then suddenly left the party in a hurry with Inga. Seemed suspicious. Chernov, knowing he had to tread carefully, managed to get permission to question Inga. But when she showed up at the station, she played dumb. "I don't know anything. I'm not sure. I can't remember." Basically, she stonewalled him. And Chernov, being no fool, knew better than to rough up the daughter of a high-ranking official. He couldn't even raise his voice, let alone threaten her. So, instead of the usual "think of your family" line he used on criminals, Chernov kept reminding himself, "Think of my family." But Chernov wasn't about to give up. He started digging into Inga's social circle and eventually got a name: Andrei Kurgayev. This was the handsome guy from the party, and when Chernov looked into Andrei's background, he discovered quite the story. Andrei was born in 1962 in Ukraine into a circus family. His dad was a talented acrobat until an accident left him paralyzed. Without his dad to guide him, Andrei quickly went off the rails and became a drifter. But then he caught the eye of a man named Leonid Brezhnev, a professional thief with dreams of building an empire. Leonid wasn't just any pickpocket, he was a master thief who had set up a school for aspiring criminals. Picture it, a legit training center for pickpockets, complete with plastic mannequins for students to practice on. This guy was basically the Professor X of thieves. Leonid saw potential in Andrei, especially with his circus background making him unusually agile. Andrei quickly became Leonid's star pupil, mastering the art of stealing wallets without anyone noticing. He got so good he could take your wallet, remove the cash, and put it back without you realizing. But as these things go, Andrei's talent soon outshone his teachers, and Leonid, feeling threatened, decided to show off his own skills one day. Unfortunately, he got caught, proving that even the best thieves can have an off day. With Leonid out of the picture, Andrei decided to leave Ukraine and head to Moscow, where he tried to go straight. But as luck would have it, he met Inga in a park, and the two hit it off. Inga, smitten by his good looks, brought Andrei into her world of high society. Andrei, trying to impress her, kept his criminal past a secret, claiming he was just a regular guy with some skills he'd picked up on the streets. When Inga asked what kind of skills, Andrei, like an idiot, showed her. He demonstrated his pickpocketing abilities by stealing and then returning someone's wallet right in front of her. Inga, being young and in love, thought this was the coolest thing ever. And so, Andrei started attending these high society parties with Inga, rubbing shoulders with the elite while secretly honing his old skills. But then came that fateful night at the Arkhangelsk estate. According to Andrei's confession, after the cops finally caught him, he hadn't planned on stealing anything that night. But as the party went on, and he saw all the attention being lavished on Leonid Brezhneva, he got a little jealous. Here he was, with his beautiful girlfriend, and yet everyone was fawning over this middle-aged woman. So in a fit of petty revenge, he decided to steal a few things from the guests and plant them on Galina to embarrass her. But things took a dark turn when Nikolai Rezanov, the mob boss, noticed Andrei's sticky fingers. Rezanov, who ran an underground casino at the estate, wasn't about to let some punk ruin his operation. He signaled for Andrei to follow him, probably intending to give him a stern talking to. But Andrei, not being from the streets, didn't know the code. Instead of playing along, he panicked and stabbed Rezanov, twice. Rezanov, being the tough guy he was, didn't scream for help. He tried to make a run for it, but Andrei caught up with him and finished the job. And just like that, Andrei had gone from petty thief to murderer. Now, here's where things get even weirder. Despite confessing to the murder, Andrei insisted he hadn't stolen the diamond brooch. Chernov, not buying it, figured Andrei was just too scared to admit it. After all, stealing from the first daughter of the Soviet Union? That's a one-way ticket to a very unpleasant end. Chernov was getting close to breaking Andrei too. After days of questioning, Andrei started to crack, crying and babbling about how stupid he'd been. But just as Chernov was about to get the full confession, Andrei was found dead in his cell, strangled supposedly by his own hand. Yeah, right. With Andrei dead, the case was officially closed. The police report stated that Andrei had stolen the brooch, committed suicide, and the brooch's whereabouts were unknown. Case closed, right? Well, not really. The Soviet public wasn't buying it. Rumors started flying. Some said Andrei had been set up by powerful people who wanted the brooch for themselves. Others claimed Galina herself had orchestrated the theft and framed Andrei. After all, her reputation wasn't exactly squeaky clean. In the end, the truth disappeared along with Andrei, buried under layers of Soviet bureaucracy and whispered gossip. The brooch, still missing to this day. And that, my friends, is how a 19-year-old Ukrainian kid with nimble fingers and a knack for bad decisions became a footnote in Soviet history.